and thank you for joining me. My name is Whitney Baxter, and I'm 9th District Council member. Today's council comment focuses on our Community Paramedicine Program. Paramedicine is changing the way we provide healthcare in Lexington. The Community Paramedicine Program enables firefighters, police officers, and social workers to take a more comprehensive approach to the care of patients who have a high dependence on E911, offering a new level of care. Emergency run data shows some citizens call 911 frequently for help with chronic, non-emergency problems like mobility. Community Paramedicine works to get at the root of those problems and find permanent solutions. Our paramedicine program is designed to save taxpayer money and concentrates on using traditional EMS resources in a non-traditional manner to meet the dynamic needs of our community, especially the elderly, the disabled, and other vulnerable adults. Today I'm joined by our Community Paramedicine Program members. Thank you all both for joining me. Would you take a moment and introduce yourselves?
I'm Patrick Branham. I'm a firefighter paramedic with the Lexington Fire Department.
And I'm Detective Christy Smith, detective with the Lexington Police Department.
Could you tell me a little bit about the paramedicine program and how it started?
So in 2017, we received a grant through the Assistance to Firefighters Act. We were given a certain amount of money, and it gave us an opportunity to look at the reduction in ambulance run volume. From that, we were able to realize that we needed social work. We had a significant amount of overlap with law enforcement on a lot of those runs. We needed to work in concert with one another to be most effective. So we began working with public and private entities to deliver the right resource to the right person after we kind of figured out why services were falling off for somebody or why they weren't able to engage. So from that, we have grown to have a pretty good team, and we've had a lot of successes.
That's great. Could you tell me a little bit about the makeup of the team and how the program works?
Yeah, so our program is made up of 3 firefighters, 2 social workers, and myself. We have, during different times of the year, practicum students as well from the University of Kentucky. So they help out and we provide a learning environment for them. So we work on a referral basis from calls and responses from the fire department and the Lexington Police Department. Those calls are made with the idea that when there's a response that maybe there's a little more that the person needs, a little more help that can be addressed once the officer leaves. We can come in and we can spend more time with that person and see if there's any resources in the community that they may need hooked up with.
Sounds like you're providing much needed wraparound services once a call is finished or
That's
an
exactly.
interaction is.
And continuation of those to make sure that that person stays successful and stays on that path to being the best that they can be and contributing members. So that's exactly what it is.
Well, that's amazing work. Patrick, you mentioned a moment ago the reduction in ambulance runs. I know that the program has reduced our need to add ambulances to our fleet. Prior to the program, our call volume was increasing on average 8 to 9% a year. So how significant of an increase have we seen in EMS runs since the program launched?
So initially we saw a decrease in runs of about 5%, and that equates to about another ambulance. We were seeing that growth that you talked about. But then we started seeing that reduction, and then we weren't growing on top of that. We've reached a point now that we're at a saturation point. We're at a place that we're seeing those ambulance runs increase. One of the things that our office is able to do is look at responses and see what may need an ambulance or what could just use a fire truck. All of our engines and ladders, most of them have paramedics and at a minimum EMTs. And so we're able to meet that basic care, and then if the person needs transported, then get an ambulance to them. So we're looking at ways to help keep that level sustainable, but we're at a place that we need to add ambulances now. So we're at a saturation point, but we've been able to hold off for several years to where we are now.
Great. Detective, could you tell me a little bit about how the work of the team is helping combat overdose deaths in Lexington?
Our 2 social workers, their primary responsibility is to follow up with every non-fatal overdose here in Fayette County within 72 hours. When that follow-up is done, we provide education, materials for recovery and addiction services locally, inpatient and outpatient. and we help to advocate for that person. If they wish to go, then we help to try to find a placement and make that happen. We also provide Narcan training and Narcan to each one of those follow-ups as necessary. We do community-wide training at a lot of our community partners. We do training there. We provide Narcan and distribution. We provide training in our own departments for harm reduction, Narcan use, Narcan training and replacement. So we try to be as much an advocate for those individuals as we can.
Paramedicine programs don't seem to be really common in other communities. Are we a model for other communities, or have other communities reached out to you all?
Initially in Kentucky, there were 8 pilot programs. A lot of those focused on maybe one disease process: heart failure, diabetes, or stroke. We kind of looked at our model as who is the person that's calling the most. A single person. What does that person need? Not just a certain disease process or anything. The nature of a person's calls dictate the services that they may need, and we didn't want to leave anybody out. So being able to follow up with everybody and use community partners has helped us then to be a different aspect of service to other communities. We've helped, Chattanooga has now the Chattanooga Connect program, and really what you're doing, we use paramedics in a little bit different role. Police officers and then social workers, and together make a multidisciplinary team. But part of our success is the wonderful resources that we have within our community, public and private, and being able to work together, we're able to show a fiscally smarter community, and we're able to show a lot more need for resources that may not have been meeting the right people at the right place, because this person is at a desk and this person is at home and they don't know that each other exist. And so we're kind of that hub of a community that says, I know the person you need. I'm not the guy, but I know the guy. And so being able to connect those helps us be a more efficient community. And other people are starting to call and look at that model.
Well, it's pretty amazing that we can be such a role model to other communities. So thank you both for your service, and thanks for joining me today.
Thank you.
Welcome back. I'm now joined with 2 of our social workers in the Paramedicine program. Please introduce yourself and tell us what you do with the Paramedicine program.
I'm Mackenzie Gross, and I'm one of the social workers with the Community Paramedicine Program. I have my master's degree in social work, and I'm a certified social worker.
Thank you.
My name is Maria Sloan, and I'm a certified social worker as well. I've been with LFD since 2019, and I bring 20 years of mental health experience with me. And of course, we do a lot within the LFD as well as in our community paramedicine program.
I'm sure you do. Can you speak a little bit about the role that social workers play in the paramedicine program? Mackenzie, you want to start?
Yeah, well, I think what Maria said, as social workers, we play a couple different roles in the Community Paramedicine Program. Of course, many people are familiar with the substance use disorder portion of what we do. We go out and we follow up on non-fatal overdoses because the EMS system within Lexington is in the fire department, so we have access to seeing those EMS runs for individuals who've experienced a non-fatal overdose. And as a team, we're able, and as social workers, we're able to go out, follow up with those individuals, and try to connect them to resources, see if they need Narcan, and just provide all-around support for those individuals. And then another aspect of what we do is we follow up with referrals through police, fire, sometimes community members that are concerned about a neighbor. We go out, we follow up, and we try to also do the same thing, connect them with resources, fill in those gaps, and get to the root cause of what they really need or what they're missing, and see if we could just help in any way.
Seems like you play a really valuable role in our community, so thank you. Maria, what do you feel, or how do you feel the role of social worker in the paramedicine program has evolved since you started or since the inception of the program?
Social work within LFD and emergency services is very uncommon. So that's our practice, though. Social work is a generalist practice, and we see a lot of that opening up more now with your EMS and your fire, as well as law enforcement. Implanting those social workers in with law enforcement programs and things. And so, as a social worker, that's what we do. We evolve into our positions. We're helping break those barriers down in positions that, hey, a social worker in fire, EMS, that's okay. And so it's definitely evolving every day with the program as it grows, as our community grows, their needs grow, our positions within the fire department just continue to grow as well. Our community is definitely much needed with services and things, and so it's an opportunity for us to be able to look at it in a different lens of traditional social work.
That's awesome. Thank you. Could you speak a little bit about any success stories that you've had?
I think a recent one that really shows the power of having police, fire, and social work all together is a recent one where we were in the area, me and one of our paramedics were in the area, and we heard a run come out, and it was an individual with severe mental illness. Police and fire were out there, and we just so happened to be right around the corner. So we went to see if we could be of any assistance, and it ended up being a Thursday late in the afternoon, right before we were leaving. And the individual went to the hospital, and it was someone that Detective Smith was actually already had worked with in the past, was familiar with the family, and one of the officers on scene told me that they were going to be reaching out to her. And so the next day I was able to also reach out to Detective Smith and say, hey, I know you're familiar with this family, and then an officer was going to reach out to you, but I just wanted to make you aware of kind of what was going on. And she was able to actually get in contact with people she already knew through the family from previously working with this individual. They were able to get this individual in a nursing home and get him appropriately placed because that's what he wanted. And so kind of just, that was a fast moving thing that we were able to connect because of the way our program runs, and just knowing that she already had connections out there was really beneficial for that individual.
Yeah, I'm sure the family really appreciated your all's help there. Maria, if you could, in just a couple of sentences, sum up what you or how you could recommend another city proceed with a paramedicine program, what advice would you give them?
Well, I think having a multidisciplinary team like our approach is, because every community is different and no community paramedicine team is going to be the same based off those community needs. But I think having the ability to have a multidisciplinary team benefits that team's growth and success as well as the communities.
That's great. Well, thank you both so much for your service to our community. I know that our community is a better place because of the work you all are doing, so I really appreciate you all.
Thank you.
That wraps up another edition of my council comment. I really appreciate the Community Paramedicine team joining me today, and I appreciate you joining me as well. For more information on what's going on in our city, feel free to email or call my office or follow me on social media. You can find me on Facebook and Instagram. Thanks again for joining me.